And in this video, we're going to cover some recent topics concerning the Idaho murders and Bryan Kohberger, and then we're going to finish off with a couple of newspaper articles, one concerning a potential Tinder date between Bryan Kohberger and a lady by the name of Hayley Willette. But before we get into all of that, I just want to cover a couple of topics that I've seen discussed online recently, one in particular concerning Dylan Mortensen. Now, I made a video regarding this individual, one of the surviving roommates of the Idaho murders, just a few days ago. But I'm seeing some discussion online which I don't particularly agree with. Now, we have this idea of Dylan Mortensen being in a frozen shock phase once seeing the perpetrator. The perpetrator walks towards her, walks out of the property, and Dylan Mortensen, according to the affidavit, was frozen in fear. So on one hand, we have an individual here who is rooted to the spot with fear, frozen with fear. But then I see a lot of discussion about, well, maybe Dylan Mortensen didn't understand or realise the gravity of the situation. And to me, those two cannot go together. They can't go together. You cannot be so frightened that you are rooted to the spot, frozen in a frozen shock phase, or however they describe it in the affidavit, but not be aware of the present danger or the potential danger. She had heard crying. She had heard someone say, "Someone is here." She had heard a loud thud. She had seen an individual walking towards her dressed in all black, wearing a mask with bushy eyebrows, walk straight past her bedroom. She was frozen in fear for a particular reason, because she was scared. She was aware of that present danger. So to me, to say, yes, this individual was frozen in fear, but she didn't understand the gravity of the situation. If she didn't understand the gravity of the situation, she wouldn't be frozen in fear, would she? That's quite obvious. My question is, okay, this young girl, this young lady has gone back into her bedroom, and it's been another 8 hours until the police are called. Now, I've surmised, as I covered in a previous video, that she may have been under the influence of some kind of drug or intoxicated in some way, and she may have thought that she was hallucinating as to what she saw and heard that night. Now, this was an early rumour, a message I received back in early December regarding an individual being seen with a mask coming down the stairs, and that Dylan Mortensen may have been under the influence of something at that time, thought she was having a bad trip, went and laid down, didn't hear any more commotion or any more noise, and eventually fell asleep. Hence the reason that she gets up quite late the next day, and then the rest of the events unfold. Now, to me, that makes perfect logical sense. What doesn't make sense to me is being frozen in fear, but not understanding the gravity or potential gravity of the situation that you are facing. You would not be in fear or frozen to the spot if you did not perceive some kind of threat. My only question would be, where was Dylan Mortensen's mobile phone, or cell phone as they like to say in America, where was her cell phone during this time period? Because she hadn't just seen some random individual walking past her, she'd also heard the crying, potentially of one of her friends, and someone upstairs maybe saying, "Someone is here." And as I say, I hear or read posts online about, well, maybe she had no clue that there was anything this insane going on, just shut the door, locked the door like I'm not dealing with this tonight, and just passed out. But then why would she be frozen in fear? If she was frozen in fear, I would imagine that you would go back inside your bedroom. Most people, and I say most people as in 99% of people, have their mobile phones with them when they go to bed or on their bedside table, unless it's on charge outside of the room, which to me seems quite unlikely. But you'd be at least messaging your friends to say, is everything okay? If you were frozen to the spot, frozen stiff outside of your bedroom door, wondering what the hell was going on, you would want to speak to those people who are also in the house. So were there any text messages, any phone calls attempted? And when she couldn't get hold of those people, what did she think then at this point? To me, that can't be what happened. The only genuine way that I can rationalise what took place is that she thought that she was imagining things. The fact that she opened the door, she couldn't see anyone on the first occasion, the second occasion, she thought she heard crying, then she saw this individual who just walked straight past her, probably didn't even acknowledge her, walked out the back sliding doors. The only way that I can rationalise that is if she thought she was imagining things. Another topic that I wish to discuss is how this crime was dealt with and investigated in the very earliest stages. Now, they came out at a very early stage and said this was a targeted attack. The public have no need to worry. And you can see why they said that. When you actually look at the house layout, you can see exactly why they believe that. If they believe that the perpetrator came in and out through the back sliding door, the door which is ignored is Dylan Mortensen's. It's the first door that you come to. It's the most vulnerable bedroom in the entire household from when that perpetrator enters the property, yet that bedroom remains untouched. Now, can you imagine this from an investigator's point of view? You're interviewing the surviving roommates. There's even one of them's even saying, yes, I saw this individual. He walked straight past me. They must be thinking to themselves, okay, this man was there on a mission. He was there for someone in particular. Now, I believe it was either one of the girls on the top floor, Madison or Kaylee. And I think that Zaina was maybe coming upstairs, or she saw him at some point in time. We're going to get into that in another video. But I think that he didn't go there intending to kill 4 people. He went there intending to kill one person. And it's obvious when you look at his path of travel, if you will, that he completely ignores the most obvious bedroom that you would go into first. He walks completely past that, most likely up the stairs to the 3rd floor, where the killings begin. And as I say, from an investigator's point of view, they're going to be asking the question, why was that? Clearly here, he was here for maybe 1 or 2 individuals. He wasn't bothered with Dylan Mortensen. To the fact that she even saw him, he maybe even saw her, but he simply walked out of the premises. And I believe that is why law enforcement very early on said that there was no threat to the wider public and this was a targeted attack, albeit they did change that at a later date. But really, when you look at the layout of the house, as I said earlier, the most vulnerable bedroom, the most vulnerable room in that entire house that had an occupant inside it was the room of Dylan Mortensen. Now, some people will say, well, maybe he tried the door and maybe it was locked. But in the affidavit, all it states is that Dylan Mortensen locked herself in her room after seeing the male. It doesn't say that she unlocked her door on the other 2 occasions to see what was going on. It basically just says she opened her door, stuck her head out or whatever and just checked what was going on. She heard some noises, she opened her bedroom door, but she couldn't see anything. It only mentions that she locks the door after seeing the male. So naturally, for law enforcement, they're going to be thinking to themselves, well, why is that? Why did he completely disregard that room? Why did he go straight upstairs? And why do we also have 2 bodies on that 2nd floor? Yet Dylan Mortensen's room was untouched. I think that at some point in time he was disturbed by either Zaina or Ethan. Most likely Zaina, but as I said earlier, we will get into that in a different video. Let's now take a look at these 2 newspaper articles. One concerning a Tinder date between Bryan Kohberger and a lady by the name of Hayley Willette. A woman says she went on a Tinder date with Idaho killing suspect in 2015 where he complimented her, quote, birthing hips and insisted on coming into her room. In an interview with the Daily Beast published Tuesday, Hayley Willette, 26, said while she was still in college she went on a date with Bryan Kohberger, the Pennsylvania native who is accused of killing 4 University of Idaho students in November. The pair had matched on Tinder and went to the movies together, she said. After Kohberger drove her back to her dorm room at Penn State Hazleton, Willette said, quote, he started being really pushy about coming up to watch another movie. When she agreed, and the 2 went to her room to pick out another movie, she said she started to feel uneasy. While Kohberger was, quote, very polite and nice during the date, she said he completely changed gears when they were in her room. He just seemed very different, she told the Beast. Definitely felt uncomfortable when he decided he needed to wait outside of the bathroom for me. Willette said that while she was in the bathroom, she pretended to loudly throw up before Kohberger left. After an hour or so of him being gone, he messaged me and said I had good birthing hips and I just never messaged back, she added. The pair never spoke again, she said, adding that she remembered the date only after she saw his mugshot in the news recently. As soon as I saw his mugshot, I knew. He just has an unforgettable face, Willette said. Kohberger was arrested earlier this month on first-degree murder charges in the deaths of 4 University of Idaho students and 1 count of burglary. Kohberger has a history of lashing out at women, reported NBC News, and often acted creepy towards women at a brewery he often frequented. According to the owner of the brewery, Jordan Sorelneck, the suspect would ask women where they lived and whom they were there with, then would get angry when they did not respond. Let's now take a look at another article from a neighbour of Bryan Kohberger's who describes some conversations with this individual after the murders took place. It states the following here. A neighbour of Bryan Kohberger's in Pullman, Washington, said the suspect in the murder of 4 University of Idaho students spoke to him about the killings days after they occurred. The neighbour asked not to be identified. He brought it up in conversation, the neighbour exclusively told CBS News on Wednesday. He asked if I had heard about the murders, which I did, and then he said, "Yeah, seems like they have no leads. Seems like it was a crime of passion." At the time of our conversation, it was only a few days after it happened, so there wasn't much details out, said the neighbour.